Awesome. An error occurred. We are live. So, welcome to the Paid Search Association webinar. Today, I have Greg Finn. And just to give a quick intro on Greg Finn, he runs Cypress North, which is an amazing B2B agency. He also does Marketing O'Clock. And if you're not listening to that podcast, I just don't know what you're doing with your time. It's an amazing podcast. Greg has been in the industry, man, as long as 15 years, I believe, or so.
Yeah, I started before Google Ads. So
Yes, perfect.
Back with Overture.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then a little bit of Yahoo in there and all that. So that makes it more fun. So definitely been around the PPC block, so to speak. And so we're very, very excited to have you here today. So just a call out to our sponsors. So Jumpfly, Clever Programmatic is another one of our sponsors, in Ad World Experience. So the way this will work today is Greg is going to present, and then at the end, we will have time for Q&A. And so we're really, really excited about that. So without further ado, I'm going to add you to the stage, and we will see you later for the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. And also just another thing too, just because you've been working in Google Ads or in a platform for a long time doesn't make you good, right? And so I just want to say that doesn't make you really good at your job, right? And so what I want to talk about is creative tactics for success in Google Ads in 2024, right? Like, how can we be creative with the work that we have to do in Google Ads? And I don't want to talk about ad creative. I'm going to touch a little bit on some different types, but not necessarily the ins and outs. I want to talk about actually using your brain and being creative within the accounts. So again, mentioned that been in ads since 2005. And as Sarah mentioned, every Friday I'm on the Marketing Clock podcast, except for this one, because I'm actually on vacation. I'm in the Grand Canyon right now. I'm not actually in it, but I'm in the park. I'm not at the bottom. I'm at the top. I also help program the PPC side of all the SMX shows, which are phenomenal. And then I just love PPC and I love Google Ads. And I want to do something a little different than most of the normal presentations out there. And instead of saying, here's the tactic, here's this, do this, do this, do this, I want to try to develop everybody and help develop and think about Google Ads and the way that you can use your creativity in a different fashion to get better results. All right. So with this presentation, creativity, like I said, isn't just in the creative. It's in your brain and what you can do within Google Ads. If you listen to the show, some people think I'm a Google Ads hater. There's maybe a little dusting of that in there, but I love Google Ads with a passion. It's helped start this agency. I love being able to get businesses results. And I think Google Ads still is the best source for getting results for your clients. And I just want to reiterate, there is a ton of information out there, more information than there has ever been before. But the best tool that you have is right in between your ears. It's your brain. And I want to try to have us looking at things differently and really using our brains and not just, spitting out what we see from other people and other folks that are saying, do this, only try this. No. We want to do what works for our clients, and every client is different. There are no magic bullets. And then another thing is I just love testing things in Google Ads, especially. And I'm not talking about maybe experiments, but just new campaign types, different bidding strategies, different audiences, different targeting, and trying to concoct different ways where you can really layer performance on top of each other in order to get the best results. And then lastly, again, knowing that something is a test and knowing that we're going into something as a test, that is your job. That is your job if you're in-house to get the best possible results. If you have a client, to test and try to get the best possible results. And not all tests work swimmingly, right? It is okay to try something and have that test fail, right? And I think that's something that really hinders people is we're like, well, I tried this, it didn't work. Okay, well, what if you tried a different bidding strategy? What if you lower your CPCs? What if you lower your CPCs, to the minimum level? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get no traffic. That's not a problem, right? So I think doing that testing And having failure will actually help you grow and help your accounts grow, albeit like you got to have some success in there too. So, okay. And in case you don't know what the scientific method is, right, we want to have observations. We want to have that question, come up with a hypothesis as to what we think will happen, have our prediction, and then we want to test an experiment and do more observation until we get something that really works. And I think even when you look at different ads and even on the creative side, right? Like that's something that you should always be testing too. I know I said I'm not talking about creative and now I'm talking about it for the first thing, but it's fine. Like the way we operate, we always try to have like champions, right? A champion landing page, a champion creative, and then or RSA, RDA, whatever you got, and then kind of test against it. So this should go across your entire account. Okay, I already mentioned this quick, but there are no magic bullets. What works for some clients may perform horrifically for others. And these are supposed to be bullet points that faded in, but they're not fading because this was supposed to be funny. Where what performs horrifically for some clients may work well for other clients. And I think that that's really important is especially if you're on the agency side of things, you might see something, absolutely working phenomenal. Let's say it's a PMAX and you're B2B, and I've got tips on how to work that later on. You might have a ton of success with one client which really has a dialed in processes in the background of taking leads, turning them to MQLs or, converting them to SQLs. And if other client is different and you only have like content leads and the sales process isn't like fully fleshed out, that same strategy may work wildly worse. Like that happens. And so you can't really say, oh, this works, go do this for everything else. So everything that you apply should be on a smaller scale first in that test format and then rolled out bigger. And then my favorite advice is there is more advice than ever, and a lot of it seems too good to be true. And you'll see just like screenshots that look like through the moon and things like that. Don't blindly follow advice. This is my favorite quote I think ever. And with social media and everybody today, it's never been more true. We're from Bertrand Russell saying, the whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves and wiser people so full of doubts. Right. And like, if you listen to the show, most of my life is doubt. I don't know if that's necessarily makes me wiser, but you don't ever hear me say, do this, do that. You got to go this route. Only do this bid type. Why are we doing this? And when you see people doing that, like there is no one thing that works for everybody. So take that into your brain. Don't make it like, hey, this is my mantra for every account that I have. Take it and say, maybe I'm going to test this. Let's see how it works. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, cool. Works for him, works for her. Great. Doesn't work for me. I'm okay with that. Okay. So getting into some of the tips and tactics, and we're going to get kind of progressively more advanced here as we go. So hang with me. I think one thing that people aren't being creative about is seeing what they want in their accounts. And what I mean by that is, when you're looking at performance and you are trying to see just say return on ad spend or your target CPA, a lot of times people don't have those columns set up the right way. And you have to break it down by segmentation in order to see the different results and performance and everything like that. And Google Ads came out with the custom columns tool, or custom columns feature. I guess it's not a tool. It allows you to see the data that you want. And this is like really critical because in that observation stage that we're trying to look and see what's working well, you want to be able to see more data rather than less data. And then you can also, again, skip some of that segmentation to see things. Maybe you want to see like trailing ROAS or trailing TCPA or mobile traffic or how search partners is performing. You can see it all in one interface here. And this is a phenomenal resource. There's 75 plus custom columns. If you haven't tested this out yet, you can go to columnlibrary.com. There are a bunch of fine folks here that had started this. And just a couple quick examples, right? Like we can see ROAS by time. We can see ROAS the last 7 days, CPA 14 days. You can break it out by mobile, time of day. Like you can do whatever you want with this. And by figuring out what you need to see from within your account, it helps you figure out what kind of problems might exist in there. And you should really take some time and build out those custom columns so that you can see everything that you need to do. Because if you don't have all that data, it makes it really hard to get creative with your testing and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in a second here. Okay. Um, Audiences. I love targeting audiences. I love experimenting. I love just the granularity. Some of that's going to go away, with some of the third-party cookie deprecation that's inevitable here. But there's still a ton that you can do with audiences within Google Ads. One thing that I recommend to everybody that is like the lowest calorie test that you can do is observing audiences, not just targeting them, but observing audiences. And most people listening probably know what this is, but if you're targeting, you're only displaying those ads to the people that you're targeting in those audiences. If you're observing, you're seeing the full gamut of everything. So if you just have a search campaign or a shopping campaign or something, you can put those audiences in. You have to put the audiences in, right? You have to raise your hand and say, I want to observe these audiences. If you don't do that, you're not going to see the data for those audiences. And so you can go through a variety of different ways to do this. You can do in-market, customer match, affinity audiences, some of the personalized ones too, where you can see people that are like moving, having a child, all that stuff. And then you can see in this example here, we can see that there are a few, this is a shopping campaign, auto parts and accessories. If we look at that cost per conversion, it's, $20 lower than what we're seeing for that account. You look at the Black Friday shopping and business and industrial products, and we can see that we're substantially lower, for our CPA on that. So now we have data, right? And we can say, let's maybe make a secondary campaign because we want to make sure we're really showing all the time to these people, right? Like if you're in the market for business and industrial products here, I might want to make a separate campaign and I might target only business and industrial people that are in market for business and industrial products. But you need to be able to have that data first to make those decisions. And this can be really helpful. You can use it with your marketing, obviously, but that's a different animal. And then another key concept here is you can also add in what you think are bad audiences, right? Like what people do a lot of times, like, well, I sell industrial products. I'm going to just search that. Well, like what if you also add in people in health and beauty or something of that nature, right? Like don't just add in the things that you think are going to be good. Try to think of some of those things that might actually be bad, right? Because if you wanted to as well, you can then say, I might just kind of get rid of some of these people. If I've got a really limited budget, I want to hit the right people. Why would I want to spend money on some of these other audiences out there? Like it doesn't make sense. And here's another example. So again, same campaign here. We can see that the cost per conversion is $204 for that account in general. And this one, we can see baby and children's products is $260. So every time we're getting a conversion, we're paying $60 more for those in-market audiences for baby and children's products. So if we have like a budget abundance, maybe we leave it in there. But if we have a budget scarcity, maybe we try to like weed out some of these bad audiences. And maybe we try to make another campaign where we're really targeting those audiences that convert well and say, we want these people first and foremost, we're going to give them their own budget so that, arts and crafts doesn't come in and eat at that budget or something like that. So again, trying to like think through some of these issues and things that arise, regularly with Google Ads is really critical. Okay. Optimized targeting. When Google rolled out optimized targeting, I hated it. I wanted to puke, right? Like I am not a fan of optimized targeting when it came out. And now I test it for a bunch of prospecting. You need like tight controls. You probably want to use a customer match list, or, if you have remarketing pixel, whatever you want. But it could be good to say, let's take this audience that we have here and let's expand it. And again, I'm always a big fan of like trying to get like-minded targeting and say, oh, this targeting works. How can I get a little bit more of that targeting. And optimized targeting has done that. And now I think the biggest mistake that people make with optimized targeting is they're just not that familiar with the platform. They go to set up a remarketing campaign and they don't know that optimized targeting is turned on. And then guess what? Not remarketing anymore. So like that's an issue. And if you want to know if you have optimized targeting turned on in your display or video campaigns, you can go and look, but it is in the ad group section. It's super hard to find. It's not at the campaign level. It's at the ad group level. And so you can check that out. But this is an example of a video campaign that I'm running. We can see this is I'm using a remarketing list, which is the total audience there. And then we can see expansion and optimized targeting. And this is based off of the list that I uploaded. And it is expanding and optimizing, trying to optimize for me here. And at first glance, this is a video campaign. And we have, we're not in that budget scarcity. We're in the budget abundance. We need as much top line as we can get. And when we look at the conversion value that's coming through, we can see that the main remarketing list is actually performing better from direct conversions back, right? For every dollar we're spending, we're getting about $2.65 back, but we need sales, we need top line. And I also like looking at the view through conversions. And it's shown here as the all conversion value. And we can see that expansion optimized targeting, people that might not know who we are, people that might not know what we sell, people that might not know what we do. But if you look at those view through numbers, that number is staggering, right? We made $30,000 off of a $8,000 spend, getting in front of a lot of new people. And if you look at the actual return on ad spend, if you use that all conversion value that includes those view throughs, we can see that is actually performing better than the audiences. Now, this isn't going to be the same for every account, but for this, we tested it out and saying, hey, we like this. We need top line. We need growth. We're in growth mode. We're going to keep this going and we're going to look and take this learning and try to get more, right? And that's the thought process I think that a good search marketer has is look at the information, see what's bad, see what's good, take the good, get more good, get less bad. Very unscientific what I just said, but like that's the crux of it all. Okay. Another targeting type is lookalike targeting. And this came out when demand gen was introduced. It is not straightforward to make. I'll make a tutorial. You can see it over on our Marketing O'Clock YouTube channel. So you can see how exactly to make a lookalike audience. But I do think that this is worth testing. And this is like reminiscent of, Facebook's lookalike testing back, when it rolled out. You can have 3 different types of lookalike targeting, one that's tight or narrow is what it's called, one that's wide, and then one that's kind of in the middle. And it will go off of the audiences you built and then just try to take that audience and expand it out. And I, again, think this is worth testing. At first, it didn't work that great for us. It's working better. I imagine it's going to continue to work better. So I am bullish on this, I'd say. Here's an example again, where we have a cost, we spent about $2,000. This is using our customer match list, and we've used a narrow lookalike on this. And we can see that we have, this is video, and we look at view throughs as well here. We can see that it is profitable not only from direct conversions with our conversion value there, but we have extra lift as well, looking at those view throughs. So again, something that is pretty profitable. Those those views are pretty cheap too. We can see about 11 cents. But again, it's just another way to try to build who we're hitting, right? So lookalikes, I would test them out and see how they go. Okay, this is going to be probably the most volatile point I'm going to make here today. Okay, so when PMAX came out, I was just like, stop trying to make PMAX happen. This campaign type is garbage. I hate it. Like, get this out of my face. I need to see some data. Like, I need information. Like, how am I supposed to make decisions? I went as far to even make stickers that say PMIN. It's on the back of my computer here. Now, I use it in all accounts, right? And I think that's the mindset that we want to have. Just because something doesn't work or you can't get it to work the first time, you need to know, like, that isn't just a campaign type today that was the same as when it rolled out. Now there's many more options. There's different targeting where you can get, new customers. And also, Google just wants this campaign type to work. And if Google wants something to work, it usually works at some point down the road. So even our B2B accounts, we use PMAX now. And so here comes the point that you guys are probably going to puke a little in your mouths about. Demand gen. When demand gen came out, I hated it. Now I still hate it, but I could see demand gen working, right? Will this be the case at PMAX? So if Google wants demand gen campaigns to work, they'll make it work, right? They've got a lot invested into this. This is, a flagship product. It's replaced, a lot of the discovery ads and everything like that. And I ran across an account recently that has proof. So you don't have to hear me make a statement here. I'm going to give you a scientific fact. Okay, so this is a campaign. This is just the demand gen campaigns here. We can see the cost was about $35,000, and it led to a little under $300,000 in sales. So the ROAS is 853%. So getting $8.53 back on every dollar spent, it could work. So, I think that's where you want to be creative, right? Is like, all right, this didn't work. Let's try again next quarter. Let's try to see if this changes too. So I think that's something too that we're just seeing with some of these new account types or campaign types within Google, is that they are not great at first, and then they work. Like I'm assuming that most people here use PMAX and are having success with it, begrudgingly so, I'd imagine as well. But I just want to set that seed, right? Like if we just say we tried this and it didn't work, that doesn't mean that's going to happen in May. So, okay. So be a scientist, test with an open mind, and then use it however you want. You didn't have demand gen work. What if you only target your remarketing list? Will that be extra coverage? Is that going to be a huge problem? Think through, how could you make these things work? All right, I hate this thing, but if I only use it to target people who are in my customer match list, cool. Maybe then I'll get extra coverage, right? So you can use things the wrong way. That's something I love doing, just because you get a Google rep and they're like, well, I've never seen that used that way. And I'm like, cool. I take that as a compliment. And I am here to do whatever is best for my client, because I think of ourselves as fiduciaries. And if I say demand gen sucks and I'm never going to use it again, I don't think I'm doing my due diligence for my clients, because I want to get them the best results, and I will do whatever it takes to do that, obviously above the board. So, okay, here's another quote. Everything must be taken into account. If the fact will not fit the theory, let the theory go. So again, a lot of people make judgments based on their thoughts and not necessarily what the numbers say. Okay, so PMAX in B2B and lead gen. The astounding thought, I would say, on the internet is that you can't use PMAX for B2B. We use PMAX for B2B and it works. So I'm going to show you how it works for us. So first, you need to have something that is a lower funnel conversion. So if you've got a MQL or an SQL you're passing back from HubSpot or Salesforce or something like that, you want to have something that's not just a contact form. With PMAX, I like customer match lists for that audience signal to start, or in market. And then you have search themes as well. So you can, again, try to get potentially what people could be searching for, or have searched, like-minded searches for. The biggest thing you need to do is to include a ton of friction. There is so much spam in PMAX. And what happens, at least we see a lot of times, is kind of these big ebbs and flows of spam where some bot army or something figured out they can make a bunch of money by filling out a form. So you need to make it hard for that form to be filled out correctly, right? By a spammer. So if you use something like the form needs business emails, or this was another fun tip I heard, I think it was from Kasim Islam, and he had said you can have a drop down on your landing page. And let's say that we're Cypress North. We do a ton of digital advertising. Let's say we have, are you interested in? And we start the, are you interested in with accounting or something like that. That would kind of be a bad example, but the accounting one is something that nobody would ever select, right? And we underneath it have PPC, SEO, whatever, all those different things, right? And so if you have one option that is the default option that you know nobody's ever going to fill out, you can just take that and not count it towards your conversions. And then all those leads that come through going towards construction or whatever's on there, or again, something probably a little bit more on point. You could take those and not count those as conversions. And you only count the conversions with people that took the time. You can also fire a conversion when somebody goes back and downloads a content offer or when they open their email so that you know you're getting real emails. But the key is you have to get creative with it. And if you just have a form, you are going to get slaughtered with PMAX and B2B. You're just going to see so much spam and your head is going to be spinning. So here's an example of a client where this is just from last year where we're looking at our sales qualified leads from PMAX versus just search. And we could see it steadily going up. Now we're about 50-50. We might even be a little bit more PMAX at this point. But the cool thing with this is if you look at the cost per SQL, we're able to get substantially lower. And you might be thinking, well, their PMAX is probably junk. It's not junk because they're sales qualified leads. So they spoke to a salesperson. They're in the process of, being sold. So if you have those few things, like a lot of friction, you're not just passing a form fill. You can see success. Like if you just have a content download with an email, you're going to get burned with PMAX and B2B. If you have any other questions too, just reach out. I'm at Greg Fenn anywhere. I can help you out, give you some tips and things like that. Or just ask questions and I'll answer them later. Okay. I still feel gross using PMAX, and I don't think that's ever going to go away. It's just an ick product in general. Like I know there's just this past week some better scripts that Mike Rhodes made that allow you to see more where that spend's going, but I just still hate it, but I use it because it works. And another thing too, like if your client or you have a sales team, they might get annoyed because you're going to get these waves of spam, but you also get waves of leads. And that's many times the greater kind of metric there. Okay. Some more wild ones here from Albert Einstein. I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking. And me and PMAX with e-commerce is like a love-hate relationship, but it's mainly hate. It's like 80% hate. And it's just because it has the highest priority campaign type. And what I mean by that is if you have a product that is in PMAX and then you have a product in a standard shopping campaign and it's a high priority in standard shopping, PMAX is going to eat that up. You're not going to show for the high. PMAX has the highest campaign priority. And the beauty of standard shopping is that you're getting people in searching for your product. So I love standard shopping, and PMAX works really good. So I'm like in this like dilemma as to what to do. So it'll eat all your standard shopping campaigns. PMAX will sell what's easiest to sell, right? Like, so if you have, let's say socks in a campaign, and then you also have, $400 sneakers or something, or shoes, like it's going to sell what's the easiest to sell. If some stuff doesn't sell well online or is higher priced, it can really struggle, right? Even with T-ROAS, it's like a lot of times it goes towards the lowest hanging fruit. So if you do use that, make sure you're using segmentation, right? Have extreme segmentation so that you have like-minded products together in your campaigns. So there's not like an easy sale or something like that. And all your budget goes one way. And then again, I still love standard shopping, but I am at this point where I'm like, how do I get to the good parts of PMAX, but keep my standard shopping? And we have one client where it's really like 9 to 5 business. And then it's probably 80% comes 9 to 5. And then the rest 20% is like off hours. So I also really love AI hands. Like I love the finger, like look at that left hand of mine right there. It's a beautiful thing. I think I have at least 6 fingers there, but I use PMAX for e-commerce very incorrectly. So instead of having PMAX, so I don't have PMAX on during our prime hours with a feed, because if you have a shopping feed, it will take all your standard shopping out. So what I do is I make a PMAX wrap. So in off hours, I have PMAX, and on hours, I have standard shopping. And then again, at night, I have PMAX. And on the weekends, I have PMAX. And I found this, it's worked really, really well. We've gotten a lot more conversions and sales kind of in those off hours. And it just doesn't mess with like our bread and butter standard shopping campaigns. So there's no overlap in this case. There's no fighting because you don't have that merchant center feed, that shopping feed competing during business hours. It's just like things are working great. And then this is just a look at all of our off hours campaigns here. And we can see the return on ad spend here, 452%, and just able to keep getting the good vibes going with PMAX when like standard shopping is typically a little bit more dry. Again, going out across everything. Okay, so here's another one that I do. Okay, so you can now use a page feed in PMAX, or you can use it contains if your URLs are like super clean. And so with a page feed, you could just take all these different pages of your website, put them into a page feed, and then feed them to PMAX. And it's kind of like an old DSA essentially. And what this does is it allows Google to go through, read each one of these pages that you're doing. It's not just, the full gamut of your entire site, but just whichever products you're looking for, looking to sell in that campaign. And then you can just make a page feed of all your products, but it's not a product feed. So it doesn't compete with standard shopping. And so I know I just said to be careful with those feeds, but I'm talking about using feeds now, but I'm talking about your page feed, not your product feed. So it's a little bit difficult to get the grasp of this if you're not a big shopping person. But you can, again, use that contains, or you can use a page feed. You go to your business data and then you just make a data feed here, and you can put in all those URLs, and then Google is just going to read all those URLs and is going to then use that like a DSA or something like that. So what you need to do is you need to go in your PMAX and just set it up and pull in as a page feed. So you're limiting your PMAX only to pulling information and sending traffic to those specific products on your site using those URLs. All right. And then again, this is just another way to layer, right? Because I'm always trying to like layer things on. Like if I've got something really good, I'm never really like happy with that, right? Like I've got this good. Is there any way I can get more? And so this is a great test that you could do to try to layer, with your standard shopping. Here's another look. This is a terrible screenshot, but we can see the return on ad spend, for this Performance Max, and I'm using URLs, is 318 return on ad spend on that, which is great for the scout. Okay, so an idea that's not dangerous is unworthy of being called an idea at all. This is a dangerous one. So I'm wincing at this slide too. Christine Zernhalde is on Marketing Clock with me, aka Shep. She wrote a book, and in the book we said don't ever use broad match. That was in like 2018 or 2019 or something like that. Broad match is good now, and I hate to say it. I used to hate broad match with unquenchable passion. I use it in nearly all accounts now. You obviously have to have smart bidding. Smart bidding isn't like maximize clicks. That's sounds like it would be smart bidding, but it's not. It needs to be maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, or it needs to be TROAS or TCPA. It's not great for like high CPC accounts. So if you see any of those lawyer, examples where we're talking 200, $300 a click, broad match might not be good for you on that. But I made the most broad match campaign in one account. This is like going to sell like commercial products, and I just took the dumbest terms in a low budget in like aggressive TROAS, and I gave it a shot. Can you hang the phone up? Sorry, I'm on vacation. So I've just put in like the most simple terms that I could, and this is like the most general search, and we can see the return on ad spend is almost 6x on this. And another thing of note, like if you are using broad match, you never want to like really look too much at the at your search query report, because Broadmatch uses previous searches, landing page stuff. And I think that's probably why we can't see keywords anymore, like a lot of keywords. But it does work, right? So like, can you layer and build out your phrase in exact match terms? Can you make your broad match ask your target CPA or target ROAS higher than your other accounts? Again, for your health, don't look at the search query report. And then you can use portfolio bidding, and you can cap CPCs if you want to. Just put a video out if you don't know how to do that over on youtube.marketingclock.com. Okay, quick lightning round here into YouTube. I think if you're a traditional PPCer, you might like drive conversions. It works pretty well, I'd say, for like what you typically see from the search side. It's a little bit more homogeneous there. And then you want to keep an eye on those view through conversions, like I mentioned before. It's different than search, obviously, and the sale many times isn't impacted directly. But here's a look, just seeing really good ROAS on our all conversions, which includes those view throughs here. Using drive conversions, I can't really find success outside of drive conversions. Some in-stream stuff can work. Corey Henke had a great SMX presentation about that. If you wanted to, at the last SMX, I'll tweet it out after this. And here's another fun one. This one is, you can use YouTube also for like connected TVs only. And I sold this one from PPC Greg. So here he is with even more mangled hand. Like, you got to have some mangled hands in AI. And you can set this to only go to TV screens. So then what you're doing is you're saying, now I'm running TV ads, right? And maybe you have some local people around, it's the local clients, and you can just go out and you're on YouTube now and you're running campaigns that only show up on TVs. That's cool. That's creative. That's what is so awesome about Google Ads. All right, and display here quick. Another thing you could do is you can use Barnacle PPC with placements. And Will Scott from Search Influence coined Barnacle SEO back in the day, where you'd kind of attach on to pages that were ranking good. And then you would show your ads, or you would try to get content or links or whatever SEOs do. But what you can do is you can go through, scrape what's ranking well for the terms you're already paying for, find those sites, and then you can try to put placements on there, right? Use your placements within display and say, oh, these are all the sites that are ranking well for these terms that I already know are ranking, they're working. I'm bidding on these terms here. But if somebody makes it to the organic, can we show up ads on there as well? So here's an example. If we're looking and saying, hey, I'm selling reclaimed wood. Here, the Family Handyman has ads, Country Design Style. These are all up at the top. So I'll go grab these sites or these URLs specifically, add them to my placements, and I'll just try to get extra visibility and like latch on to these great pages and sites that are ranking. I use a tool called Scrapebox to do it. So one-time cost might be like $100. And then here's another thing. You don't have to use RDAs with your displays. When everything looks like an RDA, try something that doesn't. I know this is kind of getting to the creative side, but like, this is an RDA. I know that's an RDA. That's an RDA. That's at least a little bit better looking RDA. That's not an RDA, right? So like, try different types. And if you want to stand out, sometimes like one of these is an RDA, one of these aren't. These are placed right together on a page here. Okay, and then rounding this up here, it's your 2024, people. Like, you need video. And that's one of the things with PMAX is you kind of need video. And if you use that automated video, you can now see what it looks like. And it is a horror show in there. So even if it's just like motion graphics, you pay a designer a little bit of money, go on Fiverr and just have some like implied movement and voiceover, like you can get things done cheap. And then the game is about to change. If you saw the Sora from OpenAI, Sam Altman went out and said, we're doing video now. Mr. Beast is like, don't put me out of a job. This is a GIF, but it's not GIFing right now. So Sam just did it instantly and made a picture of a monkey playing chess in the park. This is also GIF that's not running, but you can just look at SAMA if you want to see these examples about ocean athletes biking on the ocean as animals. So video is coming. It's going to be easier than ever. And then lastly here, if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. So everything is a tool, right? Like, things don't work good or bad. They're made to do different things. You don't have to use them all, right? But how can you make the tool work? Specific tools are only made for specific jobs. There's a tweet from Sam Tomlinson that I liked where he was talking about bid adjustments. And he said, You wouldn't use a cement mixer to fix a busted pipe. Doesn't mean the cement mixer is bad. Just means the cement mixer is not a tool compatible with the job of fixing a busted pipe. So just because something doesn't work for one client doesn't mean it can't work for another client. And then lastly here, I'll just say lastly after every one of these, you're not alone. Like there's more resources than ever before. You've got the Paid Search Association, obviously shout out, PPC chat. There's chats every week. SMX, all the presentations now are free. You can go back and look at anything in the past. It's pretty awesome. We every Friday, if you like this, bless your soul, and you get it every Friday except this one because I'm in the Grand Canyon right now and I'm off this week. And then we also put out some experts to follow. So you can head over to Marketing Clock. You can see Sarah on there, of course. And if you're looking just for more people to follow, I would highly recommend it. This community is so awesome. This community is so nice. Like people are so friendly, and we're definitely willing to help you out. And then still, just because someone says something, test. Just because you see the screenshots, my screenshots are real, but it doesn't mean the other screenshots are real. And then use your own brain. Like I can't stress that enough. I used to hate it when people tell you to think in these presentations, but it really is like the core to unlocking and getting to that next step. Okay, so rethink what you're thinking about when you're saying creative. I would argue that a lot of what I was saying, especially like the shopping and side of things, like that's really creative ways to target, really creative ways to do stuff. And I didn't even talk about the ads. And you don't have to use everything the correct way. You can use smaller budgets, test, make sure people are in the know. Most clients want better success. And if it's earmarking, 5% of the budget to test and something that could grow and evolve and be like a huge leader and differentiator for them, they will go for it. And then things are fluid. Again, what works today might not work tomorrow. What doesn't work today might work tomorrow, right? And so in conclusion here, finally, lastly, for real this time, from somewhere, something incredible in Google Ads is waiting to be known. Carl Sagan, probably. So cool. Thanks everybody for sticking with me here. And I know I went a little bit over, but hopefully we've got time for some questions here, Sarah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I will go ahead, if there any slide that has your actual contact information.
No, I'm just at Greg Finn.
All right, totally. So I'm
or Finn at cypressnorth.com.
And Marketing O'Clock and all that. So
yep.
We will start with actually Zach's question that makes me laugh. He wants to know, what is a brain? I just want tactics. And I'll bet he wasn't asking us to ask this. But I do think...
Zach's a great Twitter follow, by the way. Yeah. I appreciate your work, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just to reiterate sort of before we hopped on here, can you talk a little bit more about, when you're brand new to paid search, because we do have a lot of people in here that maybe don't have the experience that you and I have, and how we move from tactics to the type of thinking that you're really presenting here.
Yeah, and I think really like the key is, start slow with things and find out what works, and that's like always the number one thing is many clients are really difficult, right? Like you need to go through and see, like, obviously you're probably going to have some flavor of search in there, and then maybe it's okay, well, we've got that done. We've got that within the range that we're looking for. Like this is working. Great. We're not going to just like set it and forget it, but we've got that kind of checked off, right? We might try some ad testing. You might try to improve our landing pages. We have a lot of different things we could do with that, but a lot of people try to do too much at the same time, so if you get like search dialed in and search really honed, then let's try display. Let's start simple. Let's just remarket to, our customer list or based off of our analytics data. Let's get that going. Okay, cool. Now we've got people that we have search working. Now we have display working too with our remarketing. Okay, then how do we expand on that? Maybe we try that optimized targeting and say, I want to kind of be like, or look like, we know that the remarketing is not working. How can we try to add to that? Right. So I think like that's the thought process I would say is really get something working first, whatever you're comfortable with. Right. And for most people, it's probably search. And then you might say, okay, we've got search going. We've got, remarketing going. We've got those two basics covered. Let's maybe try a small portion of the budget with Performance Max, and let's say this is the hot thing. Google makes it work because Google likes it. let's give that a shot. Let's take a small part of the budget. Let's not go with those recommendations for the spends that they're saying, but we now at this point, we kind of know what our acquisition cost is, and let's even make it more aggressive. If typically it takes, $200 for a lead, what is it going to hurt to try PMAX with $100 is the ask for the TCPA, right? Like we can start like that. And it's not just all in one, everything at one time. It's really like building, like coming up with a good foundation of what you have, and then continuing to test and continuing to layer things on.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And Higman says you're the man, so I will call that out as well. I would
I'm sorry
agree.
I mentioned lawyers and high CPCs.
I know. So I guess I'll go with this. So at a time, I think, especially with the economy and the backdrop, and as an agency, how do you handle this approach when clients are asking for more and more guarantees? I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word guarantee is scary to me. Like I don't guarantee anything. The only thing I will guarantee is I will try everything and do anything I can in my power to make this work. But I do not own Google Ads. I do not have any say over things like that. So I think the big thing is like you really need to gain trust with clients. And if you gain trust with clients, that means the world. Like people that know me know I'm not full of it. You know what I mean? Like I tell it how it is. When we have a bad week, I am the first to say it. I am not happy. I am not sleeping. People know that when things are off, like I'm scrambling. I'm updating clients more. I'm saying, hey, we're looking into this. We're looking into this. Like the more communication, the better. And then I think like I wouldn't go into a brand new account and be like, hey, let's do all this wild stuff. You know what I mean? But if I have that trust and that understanding and all that, then I would say, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's try demand gen. Let's start with maybe doing it just with our remarketing, off of our pixel or customer match list. Give it a shot, see what happens, or maybe you want to do different prospecting, and then not all this stuff at once either. So I think it's really just like a lot of that rapport, trust you've built, and then people know when you're working hard. People know when you're trying. People know when you're really giving your entire effort. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, especially agency side of things is it's a lot of times like sort of impersonal and programmatic in a way. And it's like, well, we just do max conversions, max clicks, because that's what we do. That's what we do. It's like, no, I think you really need to have that trust built in.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like the conversation I always have with clients is I say, I am conservative in my approach. I go slow. Do you like that? And sometimes I'll learn that my client's more aggressive and, then I'm sort of, pushing, but I always agree. You get that buy-in. So that actually brings me to another question. And it reminded me, so with the audience data, I actually learned this from a Google rep. So I'm glad you brought up that thing at the beginning about how like sometimes it can be perceived that we're anti-Google, but we're actually very pro-Google. So a Google rep actually taught me that you can, because I'm sure, do you get the question, is it working? All the time. Is my YouTube working? You can actually build an audience based on everyone that's seen that ad in YouTube and then add it to your search campaigns and then observe that audience and their sort of post-view behavior. And you can put that on a brand and a non-brand campaign and then essentially look exactly across metrics and things like that.
Yeah. And see, that's creative.
Yeah.
Like that's great, right? Like I think any of that stuff, especially like audience wise is people really overlook that, right? And you might have, from your GA or from your customer match list, like your top purchasers, and people that are like the most brand loyal people ever. And maybe you don't do like conquesting where you try to go bid on your competitors, right? But maybe you do for those people. You don't want to lose those people to, if you're like Nike, you don't want to lose those people to Hoka or any of those new shoes.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And just how you message to them can be different too. I definitely will be running to go add PMAX to my B2B client after this to make sure.
Gotta have a lot of friction.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal there. So I guess from sort of the back end connection side. Would you say with Performance Max that you have systems in place at this point to get that friction? Is that something that you were able to establish over time with HubSpot, Salesforce, all that?
Yeah, and I think it's different because every agency is a little bit different, and we are way more quality than quantity is
Okay,
sort of the approach that we've taken. So when we're talking like B2B, we don't talk like leads. Let's say like
gotcha.
that. I mean, we talk about that, but really like the key metrics are quality leads, right? So everybody's got different systems in their life cycle stages, but typically you have a lead, then it's qualified by marketing. It either hits certain criteria, a certain business side, something like that, like enough to be like, hey, this person, sales, you should definitely check in on them. And then if sales looks at it and it's like, yep, this is good, I can get a hold of them. I made contact, cool, it's sales qualified. So a lot of times with PMAX, you want to really have that, right? You might even have simpler life cycle stages where it's just a lead, then a sales qualified lead or something like that. But like that is huge with B2B, especially with these automated, like everything's so automated now. Like if you just go after leads and then everything is also spammy, right? Like I'm sure you've seen it with anybody that's tried PMAX with just like a lead gen
Mhm.
form or like just a form on there. So yeah, so having that hooked up and sunk up the right way is like really critical. And then I just think in general for an agency, or if you're in-house and you're trying to, prove, all of your efforts and things like that, really looking at that and saying, instead of just like, here's the leads we got,
Mhm.
like your CEO doesn't care about that. And what's better is saying, here's a look at this, the number of qualified leads by different campaign types that we have targeting different like industries or whatever. Here's a look at the sales qualified leads. Here's the cost per sales qualified lead. And then if you're, depending on how you're sunk up with their CRM and everything, like another good thing is like just pipeline over ad spend, right?
Yep.
So you can say, here's a look at all of what has been proposed out, divided by kind of like our ad spend or our total all in, and saying like, hey, we're above 5x on this. This is like great. But those are the things that really matter,
Mhm.
like how is it impacting business? And frankly, like a lot of times just a lead isn't that impactful,
Right.
whereas you can then say, here's a look at all the ops that we got, or, all the dollar amounts proposed out.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And actually, it reminded me of a question I was going to ask, but I'm going to go to the other side of the equation yet, which is how on earth did you come up with the PMAX wrap? I mean, I was kind of just jaw dropped with that. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like our Google reps were too. I mean, I just think of like, how can I use this?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I want to use this,
yeah,
but I also don't want to like tank this
right.
money maker. And
Yes.
I also tested also first, right? I tested one specific product
Okay.
category I probably test it again too and just see if there's anything different. But I tested one specific product category in PMAX, and we weren't seeing where we needed to be with that. Like
Okay.
it was not doing better than our standard shopping. And we just need to we need to be present all the time. We need to have a good impression share. And I wasn't comfortable with it. Wasn't getting those results, but I wanted to try it. So I just like, hey, let's put it in the times that aren't the most important. And when I say it's like Pareto principle 80/20, it really is like
Oh, yeah.
it's all the day for this
Yeah.
company. So I'm like, what do I have to nobody's gonna get mad about
Right.
trying to
Right.
see if we can get this 20% increased.
Yeah.
People will get mad if I mess with their 80%.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So like
Right.
I think like you just think about it like that and say, how could I possibly get these things to work?
Yeah.
Um and then you get it. But no, I definitely tested PMAX only first, and I just couldn't get where I wanted. But that was like now probably 6 months ago. So now it's probably due to try it with a different category and see if
Yeah.
if it works now.
Yeah, no, I literally got in an 80-20 fight with someone that disagreed with me, and I was like, it's in every account. Which, speaking of that, in the PMAX wrap, so old school of thought, and I'm curious your stance on this, was that anytime there would be essentially a different like ROAS target, right? So like if you have a company with like a big flagship product and then there's accessories that go with it, would be separate those into different PMAX campaigns. So for example, you'd have product and then the, accessories, or for example, I wouldn't put, like, if we're talking about Nike, or I would love to work for Lulu if you're listening. I wouldn't put your black Align leggings necessarily with your headbands and scrunchies. Do you have a asset group theory, or do you test? What do you have an approach to those different products?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's another thing. I was going to add it in here, but I had too many slides already.
Yep.
But like, even like, so that case, like if you're Lululemon or Lulumelon, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah, they're gonna hire
and you,
us.
and let's say like, what would be pretty terrible, I'd imagine, is like just having one feed and like not segmented, and you just have one campaign. I recently came across a client that had this, and it was shocking because they were selling, PMAX was selling the products that they had likely no problem selling on their own. And it was just spending as much money as it could on all these hot products. And then some of the other ones that probably they would like to sell if you gave them truth serum, weren't like getting any budget allocated towards it. So, in that case, yeah, I think you would say, well, maybe let's take we made too much or whatever,
Right.
move that out of the feed, and let's put in, the new products. Let's put that in, or maybe, and bid differently for that. So 100%. And then another thing that you can do too, which is good, is like, just because a product has a dollar amount doesn't mean that's actually what it's worth to you. You know
Correct.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So with your feed, a lot of times too, we'll pull in like different margin levels, like what percentage the margin is, and like make a margin band and say, yeah, we've got this as a tier 1 product. This is like, Target selling up and up. They're going to make more money on this because it's their own brand. We can go with a much more aggressive, bid with smart bidding. So we can say that T ROAS is going to be much lower than what something in like a not as profitable margin would be, because we just need to make more money off of that. So that's all like that. Again, to me, that's creative, is pulling business intelligence into the feed and then segmenting in the feed by campaign with your campaigns to make sure that you're, actively like bidding correctly for the stuff that you want to move. I think that's huge.
Yeah, no, very, very similar approach that I take. And then thinking out loud there, going back sort of, so I'm switching back and forth. I'm trying to keep you, really your brain ready to come back from vacation. So
it's always ready.
It's always. So if we go back to the B2B side, and now I'm completely forgetting my question. So I don't know, I'll make up one on the fly. What about video on B2B side?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look at like, I'm assuming you've seen some of the ChatGPT video stuff.
I have definitely seen them. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that people have really been like missing, especially on like the B2B side, is like you're running just all these really pricey CPCs in search, right? Yeah. But like, how do you get outside of that? And so I think that that is something you probably, if somebody's in B2B, it's probably a weak spot. Yeah. And I think that just looking at some of these video options and things out there, like video from a professional human can be kind of expensive, but it's worth it, is especially if you're like, hey, I'm targeting people that made it to the site, that were on here for a certain amount of time, but didn't convert, or they downloaded our content offer, but can't get them to, fill out a demo request. Like anywhere you can hit those people is valuable. And if you're just doing search, you're just hoping that they get a thought in their head and they go to Google and they put that prompt in and they go. With stuff like video, display, all this other stuff, like, who they are, that they're like inches away from making something that's going to be big for this business. Like absolutely. I think more people should be using video.
Yeah. And actually, I know what I was going to say. It reminded me with the video. So I like the topic of creativity and not tactics, because I actually broke every single rule. The one that we always say about the proximity and location, I have left it wide open to interest in, because in B2B, you can have someone sitting in New York making a decision about a plant in Texas, a plant in Mexico, and to bring that in too much, you can't. And then sometimes you want to increase in sales territories. So guess what? I'm a kind of a sitting duck for traffic in other countries, but you watch that, to your point, with that feedback loop of the sales cycle. So
Yeah, totally. And it might work for one client, and then for
and
others, it just
right,
might be terrible,
go off the
and then
rails in another.
yeah, and
Right.
then you just have to exclude everything,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
to in order to remove that.
Right. But full circle, you just tell the client, I was watching this and I caught it the second it happened. So awesome. Well, I'm going to give one last shout out. And I think just so we don't get over and you can get back to this, to our lovely sponsors. So again, brought to you by Jumpfly, Clever Programmatic Ad World Experience. And Greg, I cannot thank you enough for being here on your vacation. It's always a pleasure.
No problem. I'm gonna go. I'll give everybody. I'll give the Grand Canyon everybody's hellos here.
Yes,
In
I would
the
love to see
chat.
that. And I'm excited for the show to come back. So,
Oh, there'll be one Friday. I'm just not on it. So cool.
it's all right.
And so if you want more of me, I forgot to put my email there. It's Finn
Yeah.
at Cypress North, and then I'm on Marketing O'Clock, and you can just any contact form ever, you can get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Great job.